This meeting is being recorded.
Welcome, everybody, to the fourth segment of Picking Greens and Being Greens, lessons from Black mamas on culture, conservation, and community. On past segments, which you can view on the Chisholm Legacy Project's website, we covered the language of love, champagne taste, and beer money. And today we're going to focus on how lessons become traditions, or the fact that lessons become traditions. And so I'd like to welcome today Commissioner Erniko Brown and Reverend Brendolyn Jenkins Boseman. Welcome, ladies. I am so excited to have you.
I'm honored to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. So, I was mentioning earlier, I'm just going to quickly say this to lay the foundation that lessons become traditions. For me, I had to learn to sew, for a lot of reasons, including the fact that I was really skinny and couldn't find any clothes. And plus it was cheaper to make them. And I made my wedding veil. And then other people started wanting me to make theirs. And then it became a tradition among my family and friends that I make their veils, and each one is unique to them. So, what is it about that title that's, of this segment that sort of attracted your attention? And either one of you can go first. If you're too shy, I'll call somebody. Okay, Reverend Boseman.
So when you say lessons become tradition, and as you just related about your niece's wedding veil and you having made it and it makes it even more special, that's so relevant and it's so African to me. It's so Black folk centered, in that it was always those things that we crafted, those things we made by hand, those things we canned, those things we preserved, the quilts that we sewed, the hand-me-down clothes, even with the patches on the knee. Those were honored things. And so to hear you start in that place, it just really is special. And it made me immediately, when I think about hand-me-downs, it was in my sibling line, it was my daughter, then my niece that now lives in Ireland. You met Sandra, my sister, my niece that lives in Ireland. Then my middle daughter, then another niece, and then my youngest daughter, and then a younger niece after Rosalind. And the clothes from Razzie, people would, the family, they would all buy Razzie beautiful because they know they would see it again. But more than it meaning something to us, the kids were so honored. By the time and it's gone through 5 girls, by the time it got down to Dana or to Rosalind, they were saying, this coat used to belong to this was Razzie's coat. And it was never, when do I get, not that they didn't get stuff, you understand, but it wasn't about the stuff. It wasn't about the label. You talk about your niece's bridal veil. I think of all of the children's, especially the girls, christening gown, and the children that's gone through, even 2 boys, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
As infants. And so those kind of things that start there is important in a time when we don't think we have traditions anymore, in a time when we say we don't want to be stuck in traditions. And I tell people there's nothing wrong with leaving traditions, but understand why they were there in the beginning. You can throw the baby out with the bathwater, but understand why baby was sitting in that tub of bathwater in the beginning.
Exactly. Exactly. Thank you. Erniko.
Yes, ma'am. Lessons that become traditions for me. Coming up in a rural area, I had a grandmother who had a 10th grade education, but I lived on family land that's been in my family for over 200 years, right? And so everybody has the big house. And for all of my life, including now, we've had a family garden. And so, when we come and we talk about sustainability, a thing that I always say, sustainability is a $10 term coined for white people and for Black Black people, it's been survival for over 400 years. So these things that we're doing, like as far as agriculture, I've been doing it my entire life. My family has been doing it their entire lives. And where we talk about communities or impoverished and things like this, we've learned a way where we have traditionally kept ourselves. And now that we're going back to these are things that individuals are saying, hey, this is, something new. Agriculture is something new. No, it's not. The truth behind that is we've been doing this. Black folks have been doing this our entire lives. And although my grandmother had a 10th grade education, she taught me the skills that I needed to come back to my community after getting an education, after getting, trained up in the white way of doing things and these expectations. She gave me the tools and the skills that I need to where I now take them to my own nonprofit, and I teach gardening classes to people, teach people how to feed themselves and self-sustainability for them and their own communities. And that's to combat the things that we talk about for as far as like food justice and stuff. Like, we have land, we have the things that we need in this life that, white people are trying to place on us. Like, we don't need those things because we have our own tools. We just need to understand that we've had everything that we've needed for over 400 years to be self-sustaining. We move into this life of greed because it's been taught to us this quote unquote American way of life, and we've had everything that we needed, and they actually learn from us, change it, flip it, and then give it to us as if it's something all brand new. And for me, those lessons that I've learned from my grandmother that bring about those traditions that I now do, and the traditions that have held me so dearly over my last 35 years of living, are the things that people need to see. Like, it's not a matter of being out here and Black people can't survive, because we've been living. We know, like, only thing Black people need are resources. You know what I mean? And the resources be those financial resources, but learning how to live, learning how to survive, learning, how to move along, to get along, as my grandmother would say, we already know.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you so much. Reverend Jenkins, you look like you wanted to say something. Reverend Boseman, I'm sorry.
I do. It's so refreshing. It's so awfully refreshing to hear Erniko say that. The problem, though, Erniko, is that in your generation, we don't have enough Ernikos that know survival.
Reverend Boseman, if you could get a little closer to the mic.
I said the issue with what I love what she is saying. However, the issue and the problem in all that she's saying is that in her generation, we don't have enough Ernikos that know how to survive.
That's right.
They don't understand that if we take McDonald's away and Walmart away, they do not take the phone. They do not understand how to survive.
That's right.
And so you, the generation, they didn't forget it. The onus falls on us. We didn't teach it.
Right.
This generation, my generation, the post-World War II generation, we got away from that. We got away from the land. We were the generation that began to tell our children that you didn't have to go to the HBC. We told y'all that. You ain't got to go to the HBC. You don't have to say yes, ma'am. You don't have to go to grandmama them house no more. The grandmama them, we got nuclear instead of it extended.
That's right.
And so there is such a critical crux to what you're saying, and the intersectionality right now, where in so many spaces, there is this negative energy between our I'm 70 years old, our children and the elders about the roles we are to play. And that tension, and it's showing up in so many places, Erniko.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you say sustainability and resilience, $5.95, $10 words, you said $5.95, $5.95 words, but just the way it was our way of life. It was how we survived. No, it was how we thrived.
Yeah.
But take that away, we don't know that no more.
That's right.
You know, and the white folks sold us a new and improved version.
You just addressed, I was going to ask, why are traditions so important? And I think you just lay that out there for us. You know, I mean, for in my family, at one point we were my uncle's kids and my mom, and so there were 8 kids and 4 adults living with my grandparents, and we'd go fishing and crabbing, and we'd have a big pot of gumbo, and you know that was a necessity, right? But now it's a delicacy. But for us, you know, for a lot of people, it's tradition. You know, for us now, when we get together, everybody wants gumbo. But back then, it was necessity. That was part of what we learned when it came to culture and conservation, right there, and community, right? And you know, which is the you know, I could talk about Mardi Gras, but I won't. But I wanted to, you know, when we talk about traditions and you know what's happening today, and I mean, what's happening in the world, where we are in time, right? What comes to mind? Like, what is the main lesson that / tradition that comes to mind as something we need? And by we, I don't mean the young people alone, all of us. What is it that we need to remember or learn that we haven't learned?
That our legacy is who we are. And for me, when I say legacy, I'm talking about Fannie Lou Hamer, who fought for us. I'm talking about Audre Lorde. I'm talking about Martin Luther King. I'm talking about the unsung heroes. Like this past weekend, I was in Birmingham, Alabama, the 16th Street Baptist Church, where I've known for most of my time 4, you know, little girls got bummed. But the 5th one, her sister was there. She spoke about some stuff at a thing that I was at this weekend. And linking us to legacy is what we're missing. We're out here for, a lot of people out here for a fast life, a lot out here for fads, trends, things of that nature. But for me, tradition and legacy go hand in hand. And for me, it's like, I can be out here teaching people about all of these things, but what hits home? And for me, I'm out here, you know, doing this environmental work, but while I'm doing this, legacy for me, I have a 9-year-old nephew. So I got to teach him that is more to life than a video game. I got to teach him, like, we got to get out here and get, you know what I'm saying? I grow a garden. We got to be out here. We got to stay grounded in who we are, because if we aren't grounded in who we are, we lose our legacy. We lose our traditions. We lose our values as people. And that's what has happened. We have lost our value as people, and we don't go back to traditions. I had a person ask me, why do I want to regress instead of progress? Because I want to go home and move back on my land that's in the country. And the thing
On
that,
your land.
that's right, mine. It's mine.
And why they renting an apartment somewhere?
That's right. Land
and,
is.
and the thing is, home will love you when nobody else will.
That's right.
And that's your
the
foundation.
lesson right there. Mm-hmm.
That's your foundation. That's linking you to your legacy. And this legacy that I'm talking about, as far as the land, this is land that has been in my family for over 200 years.
Yeah.
Like, I was able to buy back grandma's, you know, the house that she grew up in, my great grandmother's house. I was able to buy back that land. Like, this is our legacy, and we can't lose who we are, because white folks don't care about it. I mean, to be blatantly honest, they're buying up any and everything that they can, and land doesn't grow each and every day. Like,
they know they ain't making no more land. That's why it's called real estate.
They ain't got no more.
They ain't making no more land. That's why they call it real estate. That's why it's called.
That's right, exactly. And so, like, what do we have if you were to die today, right now in this moment? What do you have to leave as a legacy for your family?
That's right.
And so for me, it's important to get all the things that I need. It's important for me to do what I can for my family, for our legacy, and build up that legacy better than my grandmother left it.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. That's deep. Thank you.
You know, it's one of the things when you say, what do you leave? And I don't know the economic classes the white folks give us, lower class, middle class, upper class. because at the end of the day, they call us all what they call us. So I don't get caught up, in the classism. As a matter of fact, Dr. Hollis, the Imani group's motto is the elimination of the scars of the global community: sexism, classism, ageism, and racism. But what Erniko is saying is so valuable. What do you have? What is it that's yours? Okay, so you got an education, but they ain't really yours if you got $100,000 worth of student loans.
Right, it belongs to the Department of Education.
Yeah, you got bondage to take on some knowledge. I have a young man. Sunday, let me go back to Sunday, and I serve in a traditional Zion. Now my ministry is anything other than traditional, but I rest in this Zion, firmly planted, knowing that my ministry ain't everybody else's ministry. You understand? Everybody else's ministry don't focus on job training and community, matter of fact, micro farming and micro enterprises and environmental justice and green. They don't focus on, but it footprints their pastor. And I'm grateful for the congregation to do it. But Sunday, a couple months ago, Spirit spoke to me about the young men. And I've been there 7 years. And one of my young men who graduated high school last June, right? And did not have, listen, we don't need to be in denial. He did not have the academic discipline or skill, what he needed to go to college. Let's take Sister down at Savannah State blowing out all the GPA she can get, but that ain't him. Nor did he know to do anything with his hands. Nor did he have a mindset that he could independently figure some things out for himself. And there's plenty of room on the corner for a kid like that. Guess what I did? He's a wonderful, wonderful young man. His name is BJ, and he called me Pastor BJ. When I got there 7 years ago, he was 12 years old, and he walked into my office the first day, and he said, "You're Pastor BJ Boseman, and I'm BJ, and I'm your bodyguard." And that's what he has been for 7 years. Big old strong boy, right? So BJ graduates. I said to him, his grandmother lives in Savannah. I said, "BJ, here's what I need you to do. You are a good kid, so there's no grandmother that won't let you come to her house. I got a job training program I want you to go to in Savannah for 2 months. When you come back from that, BJ, you're going to have certifications that people twice your age don't know how to get." I sent him to Dr. Mildred McLean's to Harambe House, job training. He went down there, Nico, he came back with HAZMAT for 40, lead abatement, asbestos remediation, green construction, forklift, CP, okay? That was 2 months after graduation. He got back, his first cousin had just gone to diesel mechanic school, right? COVID still. He went to Ohio to diesel mechanic school for 6 months. Right now, he will be 20. He will be 20 in November. And he is working for the City of Augusta transit system as the second in line of their diesel mechanics. He's 19 years old in Augusta, Georgia. Listen to me now. Making $21 an hour with a 401k. Hell, he got what I ain't got. He got vacation pay. He got sick leave. Huh? But Sunday, I had him and another young man who just got out of the Marine, and another young man who's a senior this year in high school, is a scholar, elite scholar athlete, and another young man who is at Augusta Tech doing RadCon, radiological examination. And them down to the boys of the church led worship on Sunday. I'm in ministry almost 30 years. And it was the most powerful experience I almost have ever had.
Wow.
Why? Because I saw something, Erniko. I saw that all they needed, not my generation, I'm their great grandmama. I'm 70 years old. I'm their great grandmama. I ain't their I'm their great grandmama, right? They don't need me. They need you. And the young man I had come preach was only 28 years old. And those boys needed those young men that spoke the role of a Black man as a provider, the role of a Black man as protector, the role of a scholar, the role of an elite athlete. And those boys got up and broke down the church. It was amazing what they poured out. And the little boys were sitting there looking at them in awe. And I said to the elders, our only role at this age is to pass on institutional knowledge and provide resources and move out the way. We don't understand, we ain't figured that out yet. But we want to hold on and give y'all what our tradition, there's nothing new under the sun. We can do tradition, but y'all just do it to a beat and to a bump. There ain't nothing in the street I can't teach. They came to me with Beyonce's Church Girl. You heard it? You amazed that I know that, right, Erniko? My young adult women came to me, Pastor, my daughter in California said, Mom, you need to listen to Church Girl. I put it in, I said, whoa. Then I asked my young adult women, my Bible study that Wednesday night was for my young adults. I said to no children. I said to adults, get on if you want to, but this ain't for you. Because I'm playing it unfiltered and then we gonna break it down. Everybody can't do that.
That's right.
Everybody better not try to do that. But it's something wrong if you cannot do it and won't try to bridge it some kind of way. I'm gonna pause. I'm gonna step back now.
Well, listening to both of you, I think I might know part of the answer to this question, but I'm sitting here learning so much and thinking about the importance of tradition like family reunions, which we hold dearly. And I miss the fact that my family hasn't had one in years, because that was not only the opportunity for us to, commune with each other, but it's also getting back to your roots. And it's also people who, for whatever reason, from back in the day, way before in slavery time, were separated. This is an opportunity for us to get back together and get to know people on from that end, from that side, from your daddy's side, your mama's side, things like that. And so I'm wondering, what was your strongest emotion just now for both of you? Like when you were talking and you both were so passionate, like what were you feeling when it comes to issues around what we need to do with, when it comes to tradition and lessons and what we hope for the future? What did you feel? I know that's kind of personal, but hey, that's where we are.
For me, I felt two kinds of ways.
Y'all gonna need to talk just a little louder.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. For me, I felt two types of ways. One, it saddens me that we don't go back to our roots and that our families and our people push us out into this world where it's like, you don't need home. You don't need, this place is important for you to go to another place and catch roots. Well, if we pushing everybody out, then who's bringing up our traditions? Who's going to take care of what we got going on? And so for me, I'm sad because I've experienced that in my own family. When I was telling you about the person that asked me, why do I want to regress instead of progress? Hell, it was my uncle who said it. And, he's a millionaire. He's retired a couple times from the Army, and he lives in, I think it's called Williamsburg, Virginia, $1 million house. That's not everybody's life. You know what I mean? And that's a dream. Like, you were one of the few who got out. But what is an obtainable dream or reality for the people who are here, and how do we make the best of what is and hold on to those traditions in the process? And the other way that I felt, I'm excited to be sitting here and having Reverend Boseman tell me, like, we need you, because it's like, well, I got all the information I got from my grandma, you know what I mean?
That's
And
as it should be.
for, it to be still relevant, and like, hearing people saying, like, you're doing good, you're gonna do this. It's important that I be a beacon, not only for my family, but for my community, because we're telling people to leave and get away from these things. But then we talk about gentrification. We're talking about the things that are going on in our communities, and we're blaming white people for taking our land and doing these different things. Well, we're giving it away to them because we're not present in the place that we need to be. So while we're off living these lives and doing these things, and for a lot of them struggling in other cities, like, we didn't look at the reality of it, and like, you can build at home. You can make a better place for you and your children and your children's children, and continue that legacy and be connected to those traditions. Like I said, for me, what gives me joy is gardening. And because we've had that gardening, and I learned from my grandmother. And so for me to be able to be on that same land 35 years, you know what I mean? To be in the same place where I've gained knowledge from my grandmother in this garden, things that I talk about. There was a place I could tell you, she told me, do good things and good things will follow you. I remember that moment, that time, that place, how I felt. And
This way you were standing.
I was standing.
Right
there.
here.
I was tired. I was pushing that plow, baby. I was pushing that plow, but we were talking about something, and that's what she said. So to be able to say that I can still stand in that place 35 years later on family land, that means something. That is legacy. That is carrying on what my family, that is like being able to stand on the foundation of who I am and how I grew up. You know what I mean? And a lot of people can't say that. And
That's
so I
right.
feel two types of ways.
Okay. Thank you.
The conversation I had with Vicky was just amazing the other week. And Erniko, I had a wonderful relationship with my grandmother, but it was anything other than a grandmother-granddaughter relationship. My mom was a civil rights icon here in South Carolina. And I grew up, the tradition in my family was to serve. You put self aside and you serve. When our Saturday mornings, when we opened the, wasn't cartoons, it was before we opened the blinds, we had to clean up the house and be dressed, because when we opened it, people were out there waiting for help. We didn't integrate, but desegregated the schools in South Carolina. I went to Barnwell Junior High as the only Black in the whole school for a year and a half. And which makes me a great observant of white folks, because nobody was talking to me. I just had time to watch, pay attention. You understand? But also grew up in limbo because of the rejection from the Black community, who said, you think you better than us. Meanwhile, I'm over there catching this hell where I fought every day that I went to school. I'm talking about fought. From the time I got on the bus, from the teachers to the print, it was just, I call ourselves the children of the experiment. But my grandmother, as much as my mother, who was biracial, born, blonde hair, blue eyes, in Black Barnwell, South Carolina in 1931, born with the intention to be raised to pass, and became a civil rights icon to the anger and ear of her mom, who was a Black woman. But my grandmother didn't teach me the pride of Black folks. My mother taught me that. My grandmother would have taught me to despise Black folks. But what my grandmother did teach me was the love of the land. She was a botanist with the 10th grade education. She wasn't just a gardener or a farmer. Her yard looked like a botanical garden. She would walk up in your yard and dig up your tree out of your yard and tell you where she's putting it in her yard, because you don't know what the hell to do with it. That's how she was this wild woman. She was the bootlegger. She was the loan shark. She was the bootlegger, the loan shark. That's a whole nother story. So I got some other things. I drank liquor with my grandma. I smoked weed with my grandma. When I broke curfew at home, I went to my grandmama's house. So when we talk about tradition, it's relative to what you're talking to me about, right? So when you say grandmama, right? But I can't wait to be the kind of grandmama you had, right? The kind of grandmother that my mother was to my children and to her grandchildren, who right now today, my mother has been gone for 22 years, and ask any of her grands and the older great grands about role model and hero, they're only going to mention one name. Tell the stories, because they know the stories. And they got to live with Granny and in that space. So yeah. So it's all relative what the traditions were. All the tradition wasn't good tradition.
Well, some of them appear to be very interesting, at least.
Yeah. And then when you talk about your uncle, see, you didn't stay necessarily in McCormick. You left the city limits and came back. I left and went to New York for 26 years and came back. And coming back also has an overtone to it, Dr. Hollis, Erniko. Because you can meet that resentment that, that's why I tell people that move to Aiken from the north, don't come down here telling me nothing about what you did in New York, the most racist place you can find. Don't come telling me you from New York and you came to help the colored people down here. You can't fix, just stop. Because the only thing that keeps me from living anywhere I want to in Aiken is money. There are places in New York right now, I can have all the money in the world. I better not try to go move in.
That's
right now, this day.
That's right.
So again, you gotta know your value, know your worth, and why you doing what you do.
That's right. And one of the things I think about, and you guys kind of you both touched on, was about tradition, when tradition doesn't exist. And I'm going to give you a quick example. We're fighting to, I guess, maintain, retain, get control of my great grandfather's property, and this is this big, but it's in what is now a historically designated area, but it's also downtown Mobile. That's the rub right there, because that's where the tourism is during Mardi Gras and whatever. And Alabama is one of the few places that still has, if you pay the bills, it's still air property, because air property is what we did because we were trying to maintain that tradition passed down from right. And so what I've been doing lately is, I want to own something that was owned by history. I went to Easton, Maryland, which is the oldest freedmen's community that has always been a majority Black in the country, and looking for a place to live, looking for that history. And so I think that's something we all need to be aware of. Just like Erniko said, you're where you from, what makes, what you're made of. And if you don't have a history, honey, you do. You just don't realize it, because we all came from the same place. And so if you don't have Erniko's property and she ain't got no room for you, then get your own, right? But I want something that carries the tears and the struggle of my people. I want that. I want to, because I can feel it when I walked in Easton and Bernice Miller Travis was with me, and we immediately fell in love with it. It wasn't anything specific about what we saw. It was what we felt. The
spirit of the place.
Exactly. It was, I said, I'm getting a chill right now, but I feel like that's what we need. I don't know how you guys feel about that, about, finding it. If you don't come from that, you don't have that. If you were adopted, I don't know, we're still here, just like that tree in the Chisholm Legacy Project right there, just like those roots, right? We all go to the same tree.
I live in a neighborhood. I probably could live anywhere I choose to live in Aiken. When I moved to Aiken, folks guided me to the south side of Aiken, but I live now in the first new home built on the north side of Aiken in 35 years. You mean to tell me Black folks on the north side of Aiken ain't never want to build a house? Redlining is real. All of that systemic stuff was real. And the city manager, really a godly white guy, came and said God told him to build 85 homes on the north side of Aiken. And he built 2 model homes, came to Second Baptist Church to show the plans. And the folks couldn't see it because it was in Tool Hill. And Tool Hill was a community that is a cut through road, but you go through Tool Hill. But if you stop in Tool Hill and didn't live in Tool Hill, you was up to no good. And so I said to him, I said, well, Roger, you need a poster child for Tool Hill. Kids graduating high school, the youngest was Rosalind, getting ready to go. He said, who would that be? I said, I'll take a look at it. And this is what he said to me now. God told him to build 85 houses. And he was obedient. But this is what he said to me. He said, you wouldn't live in Tool Hill. What that mean, y'all? I said to him, and I said, why would you say that? What does that mean, Roger? Well, I'm just saying, don't you live on the south side? I said, yeah, but what does that mean? And I mean, this boy squirmed. I live, and the folks would not come. These houses would go. I was over here for 2 years before. Now, I've been here almost 20 years. Guess what's happening now? The gentrification. Because I'm 5 minutes from downtown. I'm a 5-minute walk from downtown Aiken. It gets all kind of wards for being a lovely little downtown. Right? My daughters look in California, Charlotte, Atlanta. They probably not gonna come back to Aiken or Erniko. They probably won't. But this property won't ever leave their hands. Right. Because they'll be able to financially benefit from the property. The first of the year, as a matter of fact, I'm going to pull some money for the because it's gentrifying, the value done tripled from what I bought it for. Right? So I'm going to pull cash out of it, real money. And I'm giving, because they talking grandchildren now, Adrienne. So I'm giving them what I want them to have now. Why I gotta die? I ain't gotta die for y'all to benefit from my life.
My mother just told me the same thing.
So I'm gonna give y'all some money, and still this property will always be income producing.
And that's culture and that's conservation right there. You just turned off your camera, and that's culture. We're teaching.
I've got to say goodbye to my husband. I got a BMW, a Black man working. Say hello to Dr. Hollis.
Hey, Dr. Hollis, how you doing?
I'm fine. How are you?
Commissioner, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you, sir?
Good. How's your city? And you're on the line on a conference. How's your city handling their business?
Hey, it's holding up. McCormick is holding up.
Well, the big city, McCormick.
That's right.
See, that's
somebody got to
tradition
go
too.
to work.
That's all right. That's tradition. Hey, that's we don't have, that's tradition we don't have enough of, right? Full families. I see somebody put in a little heart in there, so that's nice. But I think about everything you just said was culture, was talking about teaching them about saving and utilizing and building and doing better and living wherever you want, like having that mindset. That's community. And then
how money works.
I'm sorry?
How wealth is built and how money works.
Exactly.
That's how you got to turn it over and how you got to make it work for you.
Right. Because of economic, that's a big issue because, we're dealing with the economic issues right now, right? As a people, economic injustices and oppression, as Dr. Shagobi Wilson likes to say. So, I think those sorts of lessons are invaluable. Erniko, I see you came off mute. There was something you wanted to add, my sister?
No, ma'am. I was just getting my mic together.
Well, let me say this.
Ma'am.
No, go on, please.
Oh no, I was gonna say everything that Reverend Boseman said is true, and I remember my grandmother saying that, years ago. Why do I have to die for y'all to benefit? And the tradition for her with her girls, um, well, for the families in general, like our history, what used to happen was if you we didn't have a whole lot of money, but we had love and land, right? So when you embarked on your family, like it was, from my understanding, over 200 acres. And so, like, my grandmother, her mother passed, but she was given land. And then when her girls, one which was my mom and then my aunt, when they had their first kids, their first children, she gave them land to start them off. And so, like, that legacy and that process and those things. And like, I had an uncle to pass who was my grandmother's brother. Like, I was trying to buy this land from my cousin, and he actually ended up giving it to me. And then from that, I was able to buy. When people die, the land goes into the delinquent tax sale thing. Like, nobody knew that it was there. But being able to buy back this piece of land from where we started,
Right.
Wow.
and making sure that we have these, making sure that we have, or we maintain who we are,
Right.
and maintain our integrity and maintain our family. And
So
those
let
are
me
the
ask, let me ask you
Yes,
a
ma'am.
question, Erniko. The uncle that told you this, is this your grandfather's son?
My grandma and my granddaddy, yeah, they were married.
No, the uncle that told you that you were regressing,
Yeah, unfortunately.
that's their child?
That is.
Wow. Okay.
So
Okay.
I think she's gonna
I just wanted to ask.
revisit that with you, I believe. So, but I know I could talk to you both all day, but I want to be respectful of your time. This topic is so important, because I think about what Dr. Boseman, you said it, what people don't have. You both said it. They don't have this rich history, these footsteps to follow in and make bigger, right? To take further. Parents, I don't have children, but I'm going to my niece's wedding, and I would like, to see them do better than I do, whatever that looks like. And I mean,
Mhm.
as people, right? Just being all that they can be. And I wonder, and this can be my final question to both of you, what is it, in your opinion, and one from two different, I guess two different perspectives here. What's the one thing we need? What's the one thing we need to share with people? If there was one thing you could share with people, when we talk about conservation, culture, community, what's the one message you would give them? And Erniko, I know we talked about knowing where you're from and all that, but that's the most important. And then next, it's like, what's immediate? Like, what's needed now? Hard question, huh?
Yeah, I'm mulling over so many different things, because there's a lot to say. Um, your history is important. Learning your history is important. Knowing your history is important. But positioning yourself to be the next part of your history,
Wow.
is most important. So, like, for me, and I'm saying that, like, buying back family land, making sure that our garden continues. I've had it 35 years, making sure my nephew knows these concepts, making sure that he's educated around gardening, making sure that he gets an education, making sure that when I'm doing my political work, that he's a part of that. So he's not given a bad rap, you know what I'm saying, at a young age, making sure that he has a presence, and making sure that my presence is connected with his presence, because he is the future.
Mhm.
And making sure that he has all the tools that he needs to get out here, so that he's not seen as a disrespectful Black man, but a man that can contribute to society and grow up, and contribute to a growing and thriving society. And as y'all stated, like, tradition has evolved, and so we also have to do that. And so evolving with the times and being able to stand in our power while doing that is going to be a powerful thing.
Wow. Thank you so much, Erniko.
Yes, ma'am.
Reverend Boseman.
The thing that's immediately needed is programming. And I don't mean a program.
You have to say that a little louder because that was very important too.
Not a program, but programming.
Mhm.
And it's comprehensive programming, but it don't have to be long range. Erniko started talking about it in her first statements of teaching 590 for resiliency and sustainability. And so you have to have a program that teaches you those things. You've got to, we talked about it then, you got to know something. Don't tell me that money don't matter. It matters whether you got it or don't have it. How it works, how to make it work for you. What does that look like? Budgeting. We got to know about food and food systems. You got to know how to grow something if it's nothing but a tomato plant. Something to understand the power, if nothing but the spiritual power of putting the seed in the ground and seeing something come from that. You got to know history. You got to know history. And I don't care about critical race theory arguments and sidebar arguments. I don't expect white folks to teach my children my history. That ain't their job. It really is not, because I want the rabbit to have the gun and tell the history from that perspective. You understand?
Yes.
And the hunt is never gonna tell it from the rabbit's perspective. So I need the children to understand systems. Yeah, this country needs yet to be United States, as Maya said, but this is where we at. You better understand how the systems work, how the legal system, the banking, you better know how systems work.
That's right.
Then you got to know how to think. I had a mother tell me recently, Pastor, you ask these kids too many questions. I said, what do you mean it's too personal? No, you just ask them questions on the spot. I said, because I'm training them to think, to critically think on the spot. They don't have to think because they're doing this. This is mindless. After a while, you're not even thinking about what character you killing on the screen. It's rote, it's mindless behavior. You don't have to give any critical thought to that. You got to teach our children how to speak. I don't have any grandchildren this morning. I don't have to go show up for nobody at 8 o'clock in the morning, but for me, right? Except when my congregation needs me. But I've got some kids that I play grandmama to. And their mom, they go to a Black Christian school that's amazing, 5K in 2nd grade. And they had Grandparents' Day. Now it was on the calendar, but they ain't called me the last night. And my grandmama name is Lovey. They said, Lovey, can you come to our school tomorrow? I said, what time? 8 o'clock. I said, 8 o'clock? Where was I 8 o'clock this morning? But while I was there was a grade. The 5th grade class is 8 boys and 1 girl. And I walked around asking those young men, look at me and shake my hand. Shake my hand like I washed it yesterday. That's what I tell them. Put some oomph into it. Don't slap my hand. That's what you do with your boys. Shake my. There was a whole lesson in 5 minutes.
That's right.
Look at me when you're talking to me. Tell me your name. Your name is Mr. What? My name is John. No, your name is Mr. What? And they were like, oh, I'm Mr. John, so and so and so. We got to teach our children how to deal with conflict. They can't fall apart because somebody don't like them on Facebook. But if their only relationship is through things and not through people. I say this, Erniko and Dr. Hollis, and people get mad. We're raising a generation of primitives. What's a primitive? Somebody who is unlearned, undisciplined, and unafraid. Unlearned, undisciplined, and sure ain't afraid. So if we don't do some programs real quick, my church about programs, that's what we did Sunday. I can't get them all, but I can get that 20 that showed up Sunday under my charge. And you get 20 and you get 5 and you get 2, you get your nephew, you get this one.
That's community. Mm-hmm. Wow.
So that's what I think. And then they need to be socialized. They need to know how the system of engagement works. What courting look like when you 12? What that look like? Let's stop acting like they ain't full people with emotions and feelings. You better train them what to do with them. And the church has got a lot to account for. Oh my God. Because ain't nothing I don't talk about, nothing. Because there's nothing new between Genesis and Revelation, everything in there, but we need to talk about everything.
Wow. Thank you both. This is so incredible. I have enjoyed this conversation so much, and I hope you both have too. And I know that our audience will. So before we leave, I have to say from my heart, thank you so much. This is fabulous. And I'm so happy that you both agreed to be on the program.
Well, thank you. And I'm not just saying it. I respect and admire Erniko from afar. She has no idea. I really love this young sister's spirit. And so I'm honored to be in this space with her. And you know, I'm Dr. Adrienne Hollis. You know, you're my heart, and I love you so much. So
I love you.
Thank you. Thank you.
We're just a regular fan club here. So but I'm gonna close us out and just thank you both and pray for safe travels, and Erniko, continue the wonderful work you're doing and getting your family, your legacy all together. If that's yours, claim it. That's right. And I just want to tell our guests to, join us for each and every segment of Picking Greens and Being Green, because you will learn something as we have today. So thank you both. Bye-bye.
Thank you.